So today I've decided to make a video that's slightly different to my usual themed inventory videos, and I think this is one you guys are going to enjoy. What we're going to be doing is taking the cheapest skin for every gun in CSGO and putting them into a tier list to see what budget skins are great and which ones suck. Now there's a few issues with how to define the cheapest skin for each gun. We could do the single cheapest skin, but with some guns being much more expensive in low float compared to high float, I decided it made sense to instead do this based on average price. To do this, I've used CSGO Stash and filtered each gun by the lowest average Steam price. This does include souvenir skins, which I've decided to keep in this video, as we're just talking about the skins themselves and not other factors like trade ups and stickers. CSGO Stash does however calculate the average based on all skin variants like souvenirs and stat tracks, so I've had to do some filtering to make sure everything is actually the cheapest. I may have missed a few, but for the most part this should be pretty accurate. But just before we jump in, let's quickly unbox the case with the contents going to Daniel from last video. So congratulations, you've won yourself a PP Bison skin. Sorry it's not worth much, but I've sent you a trade link anyway. As always, drop your Steam or Discord down below to be entered into next video's draw. But with that out of the way, let's kick it off starting with our pistols. The P2000 Urban Hazard is first, and this is honestly quite good for how cheap the skin is. You've got some nice camo pattern on the handle and a nice red bit on top. I'm putting this in the A tier. The USPS Forest Leaves is a decent forest skin, but doesn't really handle higher floats that well, so I'm going to put this in the C tier. The Glock Oxide Blaze is decent for a nice rusty themed inventory, so for me this is going to be going into the B tier. Next up, the P250 Facility Draft is nothing crazy, but it's not terrible either. I don't really have any strong opinion on this one, so let's just put it in the C tier for now. The Souvenir R8 Revolver Inlay is actually a skin I like a lot from the new Anubis collection. The bone texture handle is really cool, so let's put this one in the A tier. The Deagle Blue Ply is a decent budget skin that works in a lot of blue themed inventories. Not too bad, so I'm going to put this one in the B tier. The Tech 9 Urban DD-Pat is another skin that isn't too bad and works well in a range of black and white themed inventories, so for me this is another B tier skin. The CZ75 Distressed is a really cool pistol skin with a nice bronze finish, and while I don't really use this gun this much, I do think that this skin belongs in the A tier. The Souvenir Dual Beretta's Oil Change are okay, but I find the pattern to be a bit dark, so it's quite hard to see it in game sometimes. For me, that makes this a C tier skin. And lastly for the pistols, the 5.7 Coolant is another skin that I don't mind, but the unique colour makes it quite hard to fit in any kind of themed inventory, but I'll put this in the B tier for now. So that's our pistols done. Now let's do our SMG, starting with the Souvenir Mac 10 Sienna Damask, which I have to be honest, I don't really like. The colours are very boring, and with the Mac 10 ensnared at only a few pence more, you'd be a bit silly to choose this one. For that reason, this skin is going into the D tier for me. The MP9 Slide has me feeling a similar way with a rather boring grey and orangey brown pattern. For me, this is another D tier skin, especially considering the other good cheap options that the MP9 has. The MP7 Army Recon is another forest camo, which isn't terrible, but really nothing special either. C tier. The Souvenir P90 Desert DD-Pat isn't a bad skin at all, and has its place in a lot of sandy themed inventories, so I'm going to put this one in the B tier. The Souvenir PP Bison Anolis is a really dark green skin, which is very cheap for a reason. The pattern is quite boring, and also it doesn't do well in high floats, so for me this skin has to go in the D tier. The MP5 Dirt Drop is another skin that is really nothing special at all. This is also going to have to sit in the D tier. And lastly for the SMGs we have the UMP Facility Dark, which features a decent pattern, but the skin is very dark as the name suggests, so for me this one deserves to be in the C tier. Right, heavy weapons now, and let's start with the Souvenir Mag 7 Navy Sheen, which I actually don't mind at all. It doesn't really handle high float that well, and it is quite dark, but I think this belongs in the B tier. The XM Blue Spruce is just a plain blue colour skin, but with nothing more than that, I can't justify putting this any higher than the C tier. The Souvenir Sword Off Parched has a decent floral pattern on it, so let's put that in the B tier. The Nova Mandrel has quite a cool white and grey pattern that I think looks really clean, so I'm going to put this one in the A tier. The Negev Army Sheen is next, and I actually quite like the pattern on this one. That being said, the camo covers less than half of the gun, which is really annoying, so for that reason, this is going to go into the B tier. The M249 Submerge is another skin from the recent Anubis collection. Not terrible, but lacking any cool details, so I'm going to put this one in the C tier for now. Okay, now it's time for the rifles in this video, and let's start on the T side with the AK-47 Uncharted. While the colour isn't amazing on this one, the pattern is really cool, so for me this is definitely an A tier skin. The SG Army Sheen is a slightly better version of the Negev skin, with a bit more weapon coverage, but still large parts are missing, so I'm going to put this one in the B tier as well. The Galil Sage Spray is next, and this is just a really boring skin. The colours are quite dull, so this is a D tier skin for me personally. On the CT side, we have the M4A1S Boreal Forest, which is a decent forest themed gun that works in a bunch of forest themed inventories. Let's put this one into the B tier. The standard M4 Polymag is a boring skin, but isn't terrible, so I think the C tier is about as good as it gets for this one. The Org Sweeper is another skin that I'm really not a fan of, so again, let's put this into the D tier. And lastly, for the CT side, the FAMAS 40 wiring is a really cool skin that I think definitely deserves to be in the A tier. For our sniper rifles, let's start with the Scar Sand Mesh, which really looks no better than the default skin, and with lots of other cool cheap Scar skins, this one has to go into the D tier for me. Similarly, the Jungle Dash G3SG1 leaves me feeling a similar way with plenty of better cheap options available, so this one will also be ending up in the D tier. The Souvenir Scout Prey is a decent skin with a cool pattern, but how dark the camo is kind of lets this down, so I'll be putting this one in the C tier. And rounding out the guns, we have the AWP Capillary, which is a really good skin with a nice pattern, so let's put this one in the A tier. But there's also knives and gloves in the game, so let's see what the cheapest options we have for those are. For the knife, the Navajar Urban Masked is the cheapest, and while the grey colour scheme makes it fairly versatile, the Navajar just isn't really a knife I'm a big fan of, so this is going to go into the C tier. On the glove side, the Hydra Gloves Mangroves are currently the cheapest, and to be honest, I don't think these are too bad. A forest or even a sandy themed inventory could make use of these, so I'll be putting those into the B tier. So that's it for the video, and here is the final tier list with every skin we featured in this video. What do you think? Do you agree with the choices we've made here? Let me know your opinions down in the comments below, and click the top link in the description to have a go at building this for yourself. Stay tuned for follow-up episodes of the series where we're going to look at the most expensive skins for each gun, as well as the most popular play skins for each gun too. But thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.